Peace, this is Sister Colette, your sister by nature. All right, so I'm getting prepared to make some applesauce to jar up. And I've got 2 large bags of ginger gold apples, which are in season. And they have like a sweet, kind of mild tart taste to them. They kind of remind you of a Granny Smith, but they're not that tart, but they do definitely have a little bit of tartness to it. So I'll be needing to add a little bit of sugar to my applesauce. All right, so I'm going to start adding these apples to my water one by one. I've got about maybe 2 tablespoons of some white vinegar in here, and also going to be adding just a couple, maybe a couple sprinkles of some baking soda on here. It's probably about 2 tablespoons, just to help me with cleaning the skins of my apples. And yes, I am going to be removing the skins of the apples, but I still like to wash the skins because, when you cut into them, you could still be potentially piercing bacteria into your apple flesh. So you still want to wash the skins of your apples very well, one by one, even though you're going to be cutting the skins off. And I got a couple apple slicers here, a knife, and I got this little apple slicing device, to help me get started. But before I really get to them, I'm going to be getting my jars ready for sterilization. Now, my jars are already in the canner on the stove, and the heat is cranked up high, so I'm just waiting for those to come to a boil so that they can sterilize for 10 minutes. And so now I'm over here just washing my bands and lids separately from the jars. That's just how I like to do it. After I've washed them well, then I'll just rinse them and I'll set them to the side until it's time to actually add them to my jars. And if you look over here on the stove, you can peek under here real quick. So like I said, my jars are inside here. The water's starting to heat up. And once it actually comes to a rapid boil, I'll set my timer for 10 minutes to complete the entire sterilization process. So that's what's going on in there. All right, so now back over here to these apples. So I'm gonna try it a few different ways. I've got some knives here. I'm not sure if I'm going to, here I'm gonna just start off with the knife and just, removing the skin. Most of us have peeled an apple before. Now, I noticed that these apples, they remind me of a Granny Smith, and they're really fairly tough, as far as the skin. So you want to be kind of careful, and they're not, it's not very easy to cut. But you want to be careful not to cut yourself because, of the stiffness of the apple. You don't want the knife to slip and, cut yourself. So I've got my daughter helping me because we have quite a few apples to get sliced up today so that we can make a decent batch of applesauce, which I'm not doing a lot. I only took out about maybe a third or so of those apples out of that one bag. So I've got about maybe 7 pounds of apples here that I'm going to be slicing and removing the cores. And so, yeah, we definitely want to make sure we get all the skins off and get the core out of there, or any seeds or anything that might be in the way. Now, I notice sometimes even when you use the apple slicer, you get that little pieces of core still kind of stuck on the apple there. Not really stuck on there, but just didn't get removed. So I find that I have to come behind, even after using this slicer here, I've got to still kind of come after and remove the little bit of core that could still be left, on the apple. I decided to also use the actual skin peeling device, skin peeler. And actually, to me, it is working a little bit better than just the knife. It's just peeling a little bit smoother for me. But I'm just kind of going back and forth. I'm using the knife, I'm using the skin peeler, the slicer. Not so much the device you see here over on the left, because it started giving me trouble. So I'm going to have to reevaluate using that gadget. But, like I said, my daughter's helping me, so we're just moving along here. Now, look what happened here. We were slicing this apple, and the blades popped right off of the apple slicer. So, yeah, that could have been very dangerous. Never seen anything like that happen before. But I'm just going to toss this because I'm not even going to be trying to get the blades out of the apple. Just going to call that a loss. And so I've got my potato masher that I'm going to use to smash my apples. They're loaded up into the stock pot. I'm going to cook them down for about 20 minutes. Add just about half a cup of water to soften the apples and mash them along. And look what you got. Applesauce. It is like the most easiest thing to make. One of my favorite things to do. And so I'm going to jar them up. I'm going to leave 1/2-inch headspace, add my lids and bands on, load them up into the canner one by one, and voila, we've got applesauce. And after 20 minutes, this is what you get. Beautiful, beautiful applesauce. Hope you enjoyed this presentation and that you are inspired to make yourself some applesauce from home and never buy it from the store again. Peace, y'all.